If you are attracted to and also attract people with behavior dynamics of avoidance, the likelihood that you were raised by people that also display avoidance is very high. What exactly is avoidance behavior? I'm going to do the best that I can to avoid labels in this video because I don't like labels. Humans are far too complex for them. But there is such thing as behavior that is avoidant. And essentially what it is you avoid doing things because you're trying to avoid painful emotions. And it's fascinating. I'm going to utilize somewhat of a brief story, no names, but to really display what this actually means. So I overheard somebody talking about how somebody was totally devastated because somebody that they know just went through a breakup, and because of that, they're totally devastated by it. And I heard the other person say, so this conversation consisted of two people, and I heard the other person respond by saying, yeah, I told that person to just bury themselves in their work and to just focus on that, because the person was devastated by the breakup. So the other person responded by saying, yeah, I encouraged him to bury himself in his work. And I was like, that's also known as avoidance. That is avoidance in regards to behavior. So the breakup is devastating. It is emotionally painful. Yeah, it is. Great. And so now we're going to bury ourselves in work. I understand that a lot of other people would look at this and be like, oh, you're thinking into it too much. I'm not, though. I'm not. Because people that work excessively, people that are boundaryless when it comes to work, and I'll use the word, even though I don't like it, I'll use the word workaholic, the act of working excessively. And the reason why I don't like the word in and of itself is because it refers to black or white thinking. You're either you're either a workaholic or you're not. You're either this or you're that. The reason why I don't like the word is because people use it in a way to kind of like excuse a lot of things. Workaholism is a word that is used to describe somebody who works excessively, way too much. But they do it because they're trying to avoid painful emotions. That's the reality of it. So looking back at this story that I used, okay, somebody is devastated by the breakup. So what do? They bury themselves in their work. Why do they do it? Well, because there are a bunch of painful emotions there to otherwise face and deal with. So yeah, what they do instead is they bury themselves in their work as to avoid the painful emotions. Now, if you have people in your life that display this dynamic of behavior that is avoidance, the likelihood that you were raised by people that avoid painful emotions because they're painful is very high. And the reason why I'm making this video is to make it very clear that if you have people in your life that are avoidant, you're essentially choosing reinforcements that mirror what was modeled for you that is exceedingly unhealthy in your survival-based childhood. Oh, just get over it. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, just bury yourself in this other thing. Don't worry about it. Get over it. Oh, just rip off the Band-Aid. See, the issue with avoidance of emotional pain is that you never actually emotionally mature. You just continue to avoid things because the underlying matter is painful. I have a good example, actually. Hoarders, people that hoard things. I used to look at it and be like, what the fuck is that? Why do people do that? I'm pretty sure that this is a behavioral dynamic of avoidance. They just collect a bunch of stuff. It's not the object itself, it's the meaning that they attach to the object. They are avoiding getting rid of stuff because of the emotional pain that they would have to otherwise face. Some people are avoiding getting rid of people in their life that are not healthy for them because of the emotional pain that they would otherwise have to face. Seeing this for what it is, as I encourage in many of my videos, see it for what it is, otherwise you'll be distracted by what it's not. See it for what it is, understand what it is. When somebody is avoidant, they avoid doing things because they are scared to face the painful emotions. When somebody goes through a breakup and they bury themselves in their work to avoid feeling the painful emotions, guess what they are very likely to do? Repeat the same fucking pattern again and again and again. If they're 20, they'll probably end up repeating the pattern by 25 and 30 and 35 and 40 and 40 and so on and so forth. It just keeps going. So the important thing is to recognize the behavioral dynamic in and of itself. Oh, avoidant. What are we avoiding? Painful emotions. Why are we avoiding painful emotions? Well, quite honestly, because they're just painful as fuck to deal with. But again, at the same time, they're just emotions. It's just pain. And it's not going to do a whole lot of damage other than actually helping you realize a lot of things that are very important for you to realize in your life. If you go through a breakup and it's very painful and you're like, okay, fine, I'm just going to go out and drink. I'm just going to distract myself from the issue. Alcohol is not an issue. In excess, it distracts you, it numbs you. It's a depressant. It does that. That's the way that it works. That's why people utilize it to distract themselves from painful emotions. Okay, I'm going through this really painful breakup. I'm going to distract myself with another relationship. Avoidant. So if you choose to go that path, which people that are very comfortable and familiar with avoidant dynamics, avoiding painful emotions, nothing in your life, at least in the area of your relationships, are going to change. You're only going to continue to attracting and being attracted to people that avoid. And you see this in relationships all the time. People that are avoidant usually are terrified of commitment. There's usually an underlying wound or damage that they're trying to avoid. And yeah, I mean, in my honest opinion, excuse me, in my honest opinion, it's sad when people don't. I mean, I try not to be like romantic or emotional about it, but some people do not pursue relationships because one or both are avoidant, even though the relationship could probably be marvelous if both people or one of the people matured a bit. People avoid relationships and commitment because of the potential emotional pain that could be there. And instead, they just continue to do the same thing of choosing. It doesn't matter if it's a thing or a person. They choose something as a reinforcement of the avoidance. And it's fascinating, too. Like, you might look at somebody who was in a relationship with someone for like a month, 2 months. They break up with that person. The person is, one of the people is more so avoidant than the other. But this person breaks up with this person, and then this person in a week is already in a relationship with another person. That is called avoidance. That's also way too fast. And the likelihood that this person is going to stay with the other person for a long duration of time is very low. This is a pattern. People that avoid, it's not even really a label at this point, it's just a matter of actual behavior. The behavior of avoidance is a real thing. You were probably raised by people that avoid, and you probably are used to that as a dynamic, and you are attracted to it, and you attract it. Now let's talk about the reality for the next couple minutes before I end off this video of the difference between continuing to choose reinforcements in your life as avoidance, because that is the comfortable and familiar dynamic that you learned through your damage in survival-based childhood. That is drastically different from non-avoidance. You will be exceedingly less happy in avoidance, and you will be exceedingly more happy in non-avoidance. When you realize that, one, oh wow, I've just been repeating the same pattern over and over again of avoidance, you'll actually look at it and be like, well, if I just don't avoid, yes, it's emotions, it's emotional pain, it's painful to be present with, it's painful to sit with because of all these things that I'd have to process and feel and do and all of that stuff. But if I just approach it, oh, and I'm glad I just said the word approach, because there are a lot of relationships out there where the dynamic is approach. I'm going to be present, but in here, I'm gone. Approach avoidant. This is why you see people approach a relationship, but simultaneously they are emotionally vacant, or in other words, emotionally unavailable. They are avoidant. They approach because they have interest. They avoid because they're scared. They approach because they like you. They avoid because they're terrified of commitment. That is a real thing, and a lot of people see that. That's why when you see somebody approach you and like they display interest, they even talk about like potentials for a future. They talk about compatibility and stuff, and then it's like they're there, but they're not there. They approach, but then they avoid, and avoid can look like many different things. Running away, jumping ship, abandoning, whatever it is. It's all the same thing. You can continue to choose avoidance all you want. It will not make your life healthier. It will not make your life better. It will bring you down the same path of a pattern over and over and over again. So you can choose to listen to people when they say, oh, just bury yourself in your work. Oh, just get over it. Oh, don't worry about it. Why not look at it? Why not look at the emotional dynamic and be like, oh, wow, I've been avoiding myself this entire time. I've been avoiding looking at myself. I've been avoiding getting to know myself better, getting to know why I do what I do. I've been avoiding looking at why my relationships don't work out. There's a lot to look at. And all you have to do is stop avoiding. Sure, it's painful. There are painful emotions there, but ew. Imagine you spend your entire life avoiding. And then like one day you wake up and you're like, all right, you know what? I'm going to try to not avoid. I'm going to look at myself. I'm going to be present with this. I'm going to, see what happens, see what I discover, see what I learn about myself, sit with the pain, see what happens. And then you do. Like maybe you sit down in meditation and you're like, okay, Chris, let's look at ourselves. Wow. And then like you go through the entire process, but then like you come out on the other side and you look at yourself and you're like, I've been avoiding that. And not to be hard on yourself, not at all. No, this is no judgment, no shame, no guilt, no any of that stuff. This is a safe space. But like the recognition where like you kind of like look at it and you're like, wow, I've avoided that for decades. I didn't have to, but I did. And I'm so glad that I am choosing to not avoid. now, because the dynamic is so drastically different than what I thought it would be. And then it's just wild. If you continue to choose reinforcements in your life of avoidance, you will find yourself in the same place, mentally and emotionally, over and over again. Emotional pain is painful, yes, but when you just look at it and you recognize, oh wow, my relationships have not worked out because I've been avoidant to commitment. I've been terrified of commitment. Oh wow, I've been terrified, and this is all just example, by the way. Oh wow, I've been terrified of commitment because, um, like a person looks at themselves. Example A, they say like, oh wow, I've been terrified of commitment because I've been in some way abandoned, and I'm terrified of reliving that same wound, so I'm going to avoid. But the fascinating thing is that they do actually end up reliving the same wound because they avoid, because they are attracted to people that avoid, and they attract people that avoid. So they attract the same thing. So essentially, what it is that you're terrified of happening ends up, I like the word, becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy in and of itself, because you're acting it out. You don't want it to happen, but it happens anyway because it proves itself to be true based on the behavior that you choose as a reinforcement. See this for what it is. It's wild, isn't it?